The lights inside the congressional hearing room burned so bright it felt like standing under a stadium spotlight. Cameras surrounded every corner, reporters filled every seat, and millions watched live across the country. This wasn't some ordinary D.C. meeting. It was a showdown everyone had been waiting for. At the witness desk sat Judge Andrew Napolitano, 74 years old. Former Fox News legal analyst dressed in his crisp suit with perfectly combed gray hair. Known nationwide for his constitutional breakdowns and strong opinions, he had spent years on television convincing viewers he understood the law better than anyone. Today he was here to speak on judicial reform, but facing him was someone who wasn't fazed by titles, age, or reputation. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, at only 43. She was already a rising force in Washington. Before stepping into politics, she fought for civil rights and defended everyday people who had no one to stand up for them. Deep Dallas roots, fearless energy, Crockett wasn't the type to bow to anyone, especially not in a courtroom-style setting. Napolitano had been talking for nearly 20 minutes, his voice echoing confidently through the chamber. He ripped into the current administration, calling recent judicial nominees unqualified and political activists. Some lawmakers nodded along, others looked uneasy. Then Crockett slowly raised her hand. The chair acknowledged her. She stood, calm and steady, and spoke clearly. "Judge Napolitano, with all due respect, I need to stop you right there." Everything froze. Napolitano's face turned red. His palm hit the desk with a thud, shaking the microphone. Gasps filled the room. "Sit down," he shouted angrily, pointing his finger at her. "I am not finished. You will sit down like all the others." Phones lifted instantly. Social media lit up. People posted clips before the echo faded. Did a witness just yell at a congresswoman? Did Judge Napolitano lose control on live national TV? But Jasmine Crockett did not sit. She stayed standing, mic in hand, a confident smirk appearing. She had trained for battles tougher than this. And her next words? They were about to break the internet before we jump into what she said. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. You don't want to miss what comes next. Because this hearing only gets more intense from here. To really understand this viral explosion, let's look at who these two figures are. Judge Andrew Napolitano isn't an average commentator. He once served 8 years on the New Jersey Superior Court before becoming one of Fox News's most famous legal voices. For nearly 20 years, he explained constitutional issues on hit shows like Fox and Friends and The O'Reilly Factor. He has Ivy League roots, Princeton undergrad, Notre Dame law, and has written 9 books on the Constitution. Conservatives admired him for defending strict constitutional principles. Recently, though, Napolitano has been in controversy. Since leaving Fox News in 2021, he's become louder, more aggressive, and critics say more arrogant. Still, at 74, he walks into any room expecting respect, the hair flawless, suit perfect, voice strong, attitude sharp. He's used to talking uninterrupted and having the last word. Now meet Jasmine Crockett, part of a bold new generation of lawmakers. Born in St. Louis, later moving to Texas, she came up without wealthy connections or political family ties. She fought her way up. After graduating from Rhodes College and the University of Houston Law Center, she became a civil rights attorney in Dallas. She took cases others ran, from police brutality, housing discrimination, voters being ignored. She learned to battle aggressive attorneys and hostile judges long before Congress. When she won her seat in 2022, doubters claimed she wouldn't last. Instead, she exploded onto the scene. As a member of the House Oversight Committee, she quickly went viral for her sharp questioning and unshakable tone. She fact-checked witnesses in real time, challenged Jim Jordan, clashed with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and never flinched under pressure. But today's hearing wasn't about partisan drama. It was about the future of America's courts, something Crockett studied deeply as a lawyer. She came prepared and wasn't about to let Judge Napolitano turn this into a partisan rant. She had practiced every question and wasn't backing down. The committee was reviewing major proposals, adding seats to federal courts, updating judicial ethics rules, and reconsidering how judges are chosen. Napolitano was invited to give expert insight. Instead, he launched into a political tirade. For nearly 20 minutes, he blasted judicial nominees, accusing them of activism and unworthiness, and that's when Jasmine Crockett stood up. And the hearing changed forever. He had brushed off concerns about bringing more diversity to federal courts, calling it identity politics instead of merit-based selection. Crockett quietly listened, taking detailed notes. She waited patiently, but the moment Napolitano started naming judges and labeling them day picks who didn't deserve their seats, she reached her limit. What he didn't realize was simple. She had practiced in front of several of the judges he insulted. She knew their records. She knew their credentials. And she knew his statements weren't just false, they were damaging and irresponsible. That's why she raised her hand. That's why she cut in. And that's exactly how one of the most unforgettable moments in congressional hearing history began. When Napolitano's angry command, "Sit down," echoed through the room, the atmosphere tightened like a wire ready to snap. Every camera immediately locked onto Crockett. Everyone wondered the same thing. Would she shrink back? Would she bow her head? Would she quietly comply like others often had when challenged by a so-called expert? Instead, she inhaled calmly. She faced him directly. And her voice, cold and steady, cut through the noise. "I will not sit down, Judge Napolitano. And let me explain why." The gallery exploded in whispers. Staffers leaned forward. Napolitano's complexion shifted from red to deep purple. Crockett didn't flinch. Her years in the courtroom kicked in with precision. "You are here as a witness," she said firmly. "I am an elected member of Congress. You do not instruct me when to speak. You do not tell me to sit. And you absolutely do not shout at me just because you dislike my questions." Applause burst from the audience. The committee chair banged the gavel, but the moment was already viral. Phones were out. Clips blasted across TikTok, X, and Instagram within seconds. Napolitano tried to recover, lifting his hand in half apology. "I regret my tone, but no," Crockett interrupted sharply. "You don't get to soften your way out of this." She held up a folder and began removing documents. The room leaned forward as cameras zoomed in. "You spent 20 minutes attacking judges who are not here to defend themselves. You called them unqualified. You called them activists. You accused them of being diversity hires." She flipped a page. "Let's begin with Judge Maria Rodriguez, someone you named specifically. Are you aware she graduated at the top of her class from Yale Law School? That she clerked for Justice Sotomayor? That she served as a federal prosecutor for 15 years before her appointment?" Napolitano shifted uncomfortably. "I was speaking generally about, you used her name," Crockett shot back. "And you claimed her appointment was based on identity rather than merit. So let me ask you directly, what qualifications do you believe you have to question hers?" Silence swept the room. Crockett continued, "You were a state court judge for 8 years. Impressive, yes, but Judge Rodriguez has more federal experience than you ever did. So when you call her unqualified, what you really mean is that you disagree with her being appointed. That's political, not factual. And pretending otherwise is misleading." Republican members shifted awkwardly. Some avoided eye contact. Even those nodding earlier now looked uneasy. Democrats tried to hide satisfied grins. Napolitano adjusted his microphone again. "Congresswoman, you are misinterpreting my testimony, am I?" Crockett asked, flipping through her notes. "Let's quote you directly. You said, and I'm reading, 'These appointments are simply political favors to activist groups who don't care about legal excellence.'" She stared straight at him. "Judge, did you know that before President Biden's appointments, only 7% of federal judges were black women, matching 7% of the U.S. population? Did you know Latino judges made up only 11% of the bench, despite Latinos representing nearly 19% of Americans?" The numbers hit him hard. He blinked, searching for words. He had prepared to lecture Congress on constitutional theory, not battle an attorney who brought evidence, facts, and receipts. Crockett leaned in. "So when you criticize diversity, What you're really upset about is that the federal judiciary is finally starting to represent the people it serves. And that bothers you, not because these judges are unqualified, but because they don't look like the judges you were comfortable with. The crowd reacted instantly. The chamber shook with energy. The chair didn't even try to stop it. The moment was too big. Napolitano's composure was gone. "That's not fair," he sputtered. "What did you mean then?" Crockett pressed. "Because from where I sit, it sounds like you came here not to give constitutional insight, but to attack judges who don't share your politics." The room shook with tension. Crockett leaned forward, her voice cutting through the air. "And when someone challenges you, instead of answering, you shout at them to sit down." She paused, letting the moment settle like thunder just before it cracks. Then came the blow. "You know what's truly ironic, Judge? You spent years on Fox News preaching about respecting institutions, defending the rule of law, honoring the Constitution. Yet the second you get questioned, the calm expert disappears and you explode. That's not legal wisdom, that's ego." A wave of shock rippled through the chamber. Notes flew across reporter screens, committee staff whispered urgently, and Judge Andrew Napolitano stared forward, realizing he had walked into a trap disguised as a hearing. Crockett wasn't done, not even close. "Let's pull up something," she said, signaling her staff. The screen behind her lit up. A Fox News clip from 2017 rolled. Napolitano, younger and smiling, confidently told viewers, "I support the president appointing younger judges with less experience. Fresh eyes are valuable. We shouldn't obsess over credentials. Judicial philosophy matters more." The video ended. Crockett faced him slowly. "That was you, 6 years ago, praising nominees with limited experience. But today you're attacking judges with strong credentials. Interesting shift, isn't it?" Napolitano's face flushed, then faded pale. "That was taken out of context." Crockett raised a hand. "Don't worry. There's another." A 2018 Fox clip appeared. Napolitano, again praising a nominee with no trial history. "Experience is overrated. What matters is understanding the Constitution," he said in the clip, silence stretched. "You could hear people breathing, so let's get this straight," Crockett continued. "When a Republican president chooses young, inexperienced judges, you call it innovation. But when a Democratic president picks experienced, highly qualified judges, suddenly qualifications matter again? Do you see the problem here?" Whispers, gasps, even a few cheers. Nobody stopped them this time. Napolitano tried to speak. "My views have evolved." "Evolved?" Crockett cut in. "Or changed depending on which party makes the appointment." She pressed forward, legal instincts in full motion. "You've written 9 books on the Constitution, right?" "Yes," he answered, trying to regain composure. "And in them, you argue judges must stick strictly to the Constitution and never legislate from the bench." "Correct." "So tell me, when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade after 50 years, was that activism?" The room froze again. No safe answer existed. If he said yes, he'd go against his own stated philosophy. If no, he'd have to justify overturning precedent he once defended. Finally, he muttered, "That was correcting a previous activist decision." Crockett smiled. The move had landed. "Oh, I see. When rulings match your ideology, it's fixing activism. But when rulings don't, suddenly it is activism." Fascinating logic. Complete silence. Then she delivered the final strike. "Judge Napolitano, you came here today acting like a neutral expert. But what you've shown America is that your opinions change with political wins. You yelled, tried to shut down questions you didn't like, and attacked qualified judges simply because you oppose the president who nominated them." Her voice sharpened. "You're not here as a constitutional scholar. You're here as a political commentator in a robe. And the American public deserves better." Applause erupted. The chair didn't even try to stop it. Napolitano shook, hands trembling as he reached for water.online. The moment exploded instantly. Clips of him shouting, "Sit down," followed by Crockett's takedown, surged across social media. Within minutes, hashtags like, "The hearing technically continued for another hour, But everyone in the room knew the moment had already been sealed in political history. Judge Napolitano was quietly dismissed by the committee without taking questions from the press. His team hurried him out through a side exit, canceling his normal post-hearing media stop. The man who once relished cameras now avoided them entirely. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett's phone lit up nonstop. Reporters called. Producers emailed. Major networks were lining up interviews like Planes on a Runway, CNN, MSNBC, and even some Fox figures wanted a quote. But instead of rushing to the spotlight, Crockett stayed planted at her seat, continuing the hearing, calmly questioning the remaining witnesses as if nothing earth-shaking had just happened. By the time the gavel finally fell, the world outside had already reacted. The viral clip had evolved into a full-scale online eruption. On X, formerly Twitter, the primary moment crossed 50 million views in 6 hours. The hashtag #SitDown was trending in multiple countries. People around the globe shared the clip with captions like, "This is what happens when someone assumes you'll stay quiet." Jasmine Crockett just showed a masterclass in holding your ground. He tried to bully a civil rights lawyer. Biggest mistake of his career. TikTok users stitched, duetted, and remixed the moment thousands of times. Dramatic music edits flooded feeds. One meme froze on Napolitano's stunned expression after Crockett rejected his command to sit down. Caption: "He knew he messed up. That version alone pulled in 30 million views." Instagram filled with, quote, graphics from Crockett's takedown against cinematic backgrounds. The line, "You're not a constitutional expert, you're a political commentator with a law degree," became a catchphrase pasted onto posts about pundits, influencers, and self-appointed legal experts. Cable news exploded too. MSNBC aired the footage repeatedly. Rachel Maddow analyzed the strategic brilliance behind Crockett's prepared video receipts and cross-examination technique. CNN brought in legal commentators to break it down. Jeffrey Toobin put it simply, "What you witnessed was elite courtroom skill." Crockett anticipated his defense, had evidence ready, and dismantled his credibility in real time. That was prosecutorial-level precision. Even conservative voices struggled to spin it. National Review wrote, "Witness confrontations rarely end well when anger replaces argument." Fox News, Napolitano's longtime network, barely mentioned the exchange, avoiding clips entirely. Former Fox colleagues reportedly reached out to him privately, warning the damage to his expert image could be lasting. Within days, the political impact crystallized. Democrats pointed to the viral moment as proof Republican attacks on Biden's judicial picks weren't about qualifications, they were about partisan loyalty tests. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer referenced the hearing in a floor speech. Judge Napolitano's testimony and Congresswoman Crockett's decisive response showed the American people the truth. These criticisms aren't about merit, they're about politics. Republicans scrambled. Some attempted to defend Napolitano but faltered when asked to explain his conflicting past comments. Others quietly backed away, citing unfortunate optics. Crockett, on the other hand, skyrocketed. Overnight, she shifted from respected freshman representative to national political force. Her campaign saw a surge, $3 million raised in small-dollar donations in 1 week. Universities requested her for speaking engagements. Civil rights groups wanted to honor her. Party leaders began whispering her name as a rising figure to watch closely, but the moment represented more than political momentum. It symbolized a shift in American public life. For decades, TV legal analysts enjoyed an aura of unchallenged authority. Their credentials shielded them. Their broadcasts made them untouchable. They could critique judges and politicians freely, rarely facing someone prepared to push back. That era was ending, a new generation of leaders, raised in the age of receipts and social platforms, was done playing deferential politics. Respect wasn't automatic, it had to be earned. Crockett embodied that shift. She didn't fold under pressure. She didn't fear reputation or resume. She brought facts, preparation, and backbone and turned a confrontation into a defining viral moment. Legal scholars weighed in, noting another layer beneath the drama, the debate around judicial diversity and qualifications. Professor Melissa Murray of NYU Law School summed it up: for years, diversity on the bench was treated as separate from excellence. Crockett showed that the judges being dismissed as unqualified are in fact exceptional. The criticism was never about credentials. It was about maintaining a system that excluded certain voices. In the following weeks, consequences set in. Judge Napolitano retreated from public life. Several speaking events quietly disappeared from schedules. His podcast, Napolitano's Show Judging Freedom, immediately felt the fallout. Listener numbers slid sharply, and media outlets that once relied on him for legal analysis gradually stopped inviting him. While he faded from the spotlight, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett stepped into it. She appeared across major cable outlets, using the moment not for celebration, but to continue pushing for judicial fairness and highlight her own journey as a civil rights lawyer. Meanwhile, the Senate moved forward. 3 more federal judges who had been targets of similar criticism were confirmed, and interestingly, a few Republican senators pointed to the hearing as proof the attacks had been exaggerated. In legal circles, Crockett's takedown became a case study. Law professors added the exchange to their curriculum on cross-examination strategy and witness control. Students were told to analyze her precision, her patience, and her ability to expose contradictions without losing composure. The clip didn't just trend, it inspired. Young people interested in law and politics, especially women and people of color, shared the moment as a symbol of defiance and preparation. Many said they saw themselves in Crockett's refusal to be silenced. Recruiters used the clip, and law school admissions forums buzzed with admiration for her technique. Several powerful lessons became clear. Preparation wins. Crockett didn't just react emotionally. She came armed with facts, quotes, and video proof. Confidence matters. Most people in her position would have backed down when commanded to sit. She didn't. That changed everything. Receipts are king. In the digital era, old statements never disappear. Napolitano wasn't beaten by emotion. He was beaten by his own words. Real-world experience counts. Crockett's years as a courtroom attorney translated directly into legislative strength. She wasn't guessing, she was prosecuting. Viral moments shaped narratives. One exchange did more for the national conversation on judicial diversity and fairness than countless policy papers. With the dust still settling, major questions remained. Could Napolitano rebuild his standing as a legal authority? Or had this viral moment permanently damaged his credibility? Early signs weren't promising. Conservative legal organizations quietly removed his name from speaking pages, and invitations dried up. And what did this mean for Jasmine Crockett's future? Her national profile exploded. Donors rallied. Her name began circulating in conversations about the Senate, future statewide races in Texas, and even potential leadership roles. She proved she could command a room, withstand pressure, and turn conflict into momentum, valuable traits in modern politics. This moment also signaled a shift in congressional culture. Gone are the days when expert witnesses could lecture lawmakers without challenge. A newer generation of representatives armed with research, digital fluency, and no patience for double standards is rewriting the rules. Respect must be earned, not assumed. More importantly, the event underscored a cultural transformation. Traditional gatekeepers, whether legal commentators, former judges, or TV figures, no longer hold automatic authority. Credentials matter, but consistency matters more. If someone claims expertise, they must defend it. If they stretch the truth, the internet will correct them. Loudly. The moment Judge Napolitano told Jasmine Crockett to sit down, and she refused, will stand as one of 2025's defining political flashpoints. It wasn't only dramatic, though it certainly was. It symbolized a generational change in American power dynamics. Fame is not mastery. Television presence is not integrity. And true expertise shows up under pressure. For Crockett, the moment confirmed what her supporters already believed. She is not a politician who folds when challenged. She's a lawyer first, a fighter always, and someone who rises when underestimated. Her refusal to sit became a metaphor, not just for herself, but for a generation unwilling to defer to old power structures. For Napolitano, The moment was a painful reminder that authority built over decades can crumble in seconds, especially if it rests on shaky ground. If you question others' qualifications, your own record must withstand scrutiny. As the clip keeps spreading. As classrooms continue referencing it and as hashtags stay alive, one truth stands out. This wasn't just viral entertainment. It marked a turning point. In the new political era, preparation beats posturing, evidence beats ego, and courage beats arrogance. The only question now is simple. Who will be the next person to underestimate Jasmine Crockett and regret it? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the year's biggest political flashpoints, don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications. More congressional showdowns, high-stakes hearings, and viral political moments are on the way. Stay tuned. The next breakout moment might already be happening.